Hey everybody, this is the family tree for Haley Weese here. Let's dive into it. So, some big overarching things before I get into some of the details is that everyone in this family tree of 5 generations is racially white, and everyone that I found is also from the South. So, either Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, with a majority of Georgia. So it seems through the research that I've done that me earning my bachelor's degree is the highest degree of education ever earned in these 5 generations. So that's exciting. Um, this is my mom. Up here, we'll go through my mom's side first. The one good story, I guess it's not a great story, that I was able to get from her through talking with her is that she did not have any black people in her school until she was in high school. They actually moved counties, I'm not exactly sure why, to Barrow County, and that is when she had the first black students in her school. Originally, they lived in Fulton County, and she said that that was an extremely white county, and that it was rumored that the KKK was housed there, but unfortunately, well, guess not unfortunately. It's hard to describe these things. But she did not remember having any interactions with the KKK or seeing anything about them. But then again, she was really young, so it's hard to know if she retained any of that. Going to my grandparents over here, I know that they never received past a middle school education, but they were both very successful in farm and factory and manual labor jobs. They actually got married when Carolyn was 16. She was pregnant almost immediately after that. There's some questions about the dates there, and they had 2 children. Going back here on Carolyn's family, lots of manual labor. I'm curious about Johnny's work on the cotton fields. I wasn't able to get a lot of more information about him, but I am very curious about, what his role was on the cotton field or if he interacted with anyone of a different race. Over here we have Lawrence, who was a farmer, but he was also drafted into World War I in 1918. Any other interesting information over here? Not quite. Let's come down here to David's family. So we have Adeline and Harley. Interesting thing about Harley is that he was actually killed by a drunk driver while changing a tire on Christmas at the age of 34. And apparently he was 6'7", which is crazy tall and explains all of the tallness in my family. And the interesting thing about Adeline, she was widowed at 31. She had 4 children, but one was stillborn. So she raised 3 children on her own. She never remarried. So I found that very interesting. Coming back here with their parents, let's see, more really physical labor here with the mill workers. I was kind of surprised hearing that Harley got hit by a drunk driver. I'm not sure, just in my head that I thought about cars being around that long. I don't know why. That was just surprising to me. Coming down here to my dad's family, I didn't get to get a lot of stories out of him right now because he is currently suffering from COVID. So he's feeling a little rough right now, and I wasn't sure he was able to have these types of conversations at the moment. The one thing I did get to learn from my mother is that when he was young, they left the county that they were living in because it was becoming more racially diverse. Is all I know about that. These were his parents. They got divorced when my dad was an adult after all of the kids had left. And they both remarried 2 different people. Let's see, let's come up here to Mary Lou. So the cool thing about Mary Lou is that she was actually adopted, but it was a gigantic secret. She was adopted because her original parents were quite young and not married. So they hid the pregnancy and gave birth to the baby and ended up giving it to their siblings. So Mary Lou was actually raised by her aunt and uncle, Willie and Charles over here. I included them instead of her birth parents because she didn't know that they weren't her birth parents and that she was adopted until much, much later in life. It's possible that even after her birth father had passed away. So that was very interesting, and knowing that they had to be so secretive because they had a child out of wedlock. Willie's parents, don't have a lot of information on them. I do know about Samuel Bowman, Charlie Bowman's dad that he was in the Tennessee Cavalry. So he was part of the Civil War, and so about that last year and a half at most of the Civil War when he was 17 years old. So he was really young and came into the end of the Civil War there. I tried to look into some of the Tennessee Cavalry stuff, but without knowing exactly what regiment he was part of, it was very difficult to find anything that Samuel specifically partook in. I did see, though, on the list that there is listed several Union losses, so I'm not sure if they were, rather successful there over the Tennessee Cavalry, but I also never saw anything labeled as a Confederate loss, so they may have only been labeling the Union losses. So a little bit peculiar about the research there and some of the sources. It was kind of difficult to find good information on that. And then after he finished in the Tennessee Cavalry, after the Civil War was over, a couple years later, he got married and they had 9 children. So now I want to talk for a second about, I'm sorry, I forgot to talk about Charlie. So Charles here, who obviously my father is named after, was a musician. He was a fiddler and did a lot of bluegrass music. Quite famous, actually. I believe he's in the Country Music Hall of Fame there in Tennessee. So I tried to do a little bit more research on him to try to see if he ever played with any African Americans or how he interacted with them. And I just, I couldn't find much, unfortunately. Yeah. Coming down here to Jerry's family, so don't know much about them or the generation after that. It's just difficult to find information on them. Now, there is one thing I want to tell you in this last minute that I got here, was something I was really surprised about was the age difference between all of the married couples in that 5th generation and some in the 4th generation back, that I found an age difference between married couples of 22, 16, 12, 19, and 12 years apart. And I listed here, these are the ages of the women when they were married. So married at 16, married at 18, and her husband was 22 years older than her. Married at 15, and her husband was 16 years older. Married at 27, so much later in her life. I'm curious what went down there. But also her husband was 12 years older than her. Here, I don't know at what age she became married, but they were 19 years apart from one another. Same craziness going on here. So putting myself in their shoes has been very interesting and very eye-opening. All right, finishing it up.